Hello, good morning, and welcome to this exciting day of business. Let's talk business. It's Business 360. My name is Blyden Ukem. In today's Business 360, we'll look at the outlines, beginning with the state of things in Asia. Asia must avoid chaos and conflicts, or the region's future will be lost. These were the words of Chinese Premier Li Guang. That's where we're starting from. Speaking to an international audience of political and business leaders today, Li said, China can be an anchor for world peace and stability and will continue undertaking reforms and opening up. About 70 of the world's top business leaders, including Apple's Tim Cook, HSBC's Noel Nguyen, and Blackstone founder Steven Schwarzman, attended the forum, which comes as China faces heated competition with the United States and the task of reviving the world's second-largest economy after nearly 3 years of isolation under a 12-0 COVID policy. That's a picture of business happening in China, still in Asia. Malaysia's Anwar Ibrahim is expected to navigate between deepening economic ties with his country's biggest trading partner and tackling thorny issues, such as the South China Sea during his first visit to China as Prime Minister, according to analysts. Anwar will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday as part of a 4-day visit that will also see him hold talks with Chinese business leaders and Premier Li Guang. According to the Malaysian Foreign Minister Zamri Abdul Kadir, our talks with Xi are expected to focus on concrete measures that can be taken in fields of trade, political cooperation, prevention of corruption, and civilization. Looking at the big stories in Africa and Nigeria. 32%, an equivalent of 64.3 million of Nigerians, do not have enough food to consume, the World Food Programme, an organization within the United Nations, says. According to the organization, 170 million people do not have sufficient food to consume across 19 countries. In a March 28 update of the Hunger Map Life, Western Africa Insights and Key Trends, the countries with the highest prevalence of insufficient food and its consumption are Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Chad, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Liberia, Central African Republic, Togo, Guinea-Bissau, and Nigeria. In its latest food security update, the World Bank revealed that food insufficiency in Nigeria rose from 29% to 32% over the last 3 months. Still in Nigeria. The federal government on Wednesday raised the alarm over the rising cases of deadly incidents in filling stations, depots, and by tanker drivers, which had claimed about 633 lives in less than 4 years. It vowed to sanction culpable oil marketers operating in the downstream sector over their poor management of health, safety, and environment, particularly when transporting and unloading petroleum products. A presentation by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority at the meeting with petroleum product transporters and retailers in Abuja indicated that a total of 633 fatalities were recorded in the downstream oil sector in 2018, 2021, and 2022 to date. Although the presentation did not capture the figures of 2019 and 2020, it indicated that the fatalities were caused by 388 incidents within the period. Quite concerning. What a statistic. The federal government, in partnership with private sector investors, have commenced move to deploy 1,000 mini-grids to electrify rural communities across the country. Deployment of mini-grids in rural areas is managed by the federal government's Rural Electrification Agency, REA, as the agency supports private sector mini-grid developers with funds to boost off-grid electricity development. speaking at the Rural Electrification Fund (REF) called 3 Bidders Workshop in Abuja on Wednesday. The Managing Director, REA, Ahmed Salihiju, announced that over 1,000 mini-grids would be built nationwide under the REF program and other off-grid initiatives. That's the outlook concerning electricity and the development in that area. Let's look at further charges from the federal government. The federal government has filed charges against First Bank of Nigeria Limited, its managing director, and 3 others over allegation bordering on forgery. The charge sheets, marked CR/266/2023 before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, also includes 2 lawyers, Muftau Ande and Dibiazu Chuks, as well as the Utako branch manager of First Bank, Abuja. In the charge sheet filed by the Federal Ministry of Justice, the 5 defendants were accused, among other things, of forging a tripartite legal mortgage without the consent of the proprietor of White Plain British School, Mr. Francis Chukwuma Nwafo, with intent to commit fraud. The defendants were also accused of dishonestly dispossessing Nwafo of his property using the forged tripartite legal mortgage. And it's concerning especially when the Ministry of Justice and the federal government is against you in court. A maritime group, the Mission to Seafarers Lagos, has disclosed that 4,000 ships call at Lagos ports annually. The vice president of the group, Emmanuel Ilori, said that Nigeria, as a major seafaring nation, deserved to play a major role in global maritime affairs. He added that the welfare of international seafarers should be a major concern. Ilori added that most seafarers suffer mental problems due to the nature of their work. He said there were over 1.5 million seafarers across the world of various nationalities. Moving away from the sea and now to the deep sea ports. The Chief Operating Officer of Lekki Deep Seaport, Lauren Smith, has said that the sailing time of vessels using the Lekki Deep Seaport is usually shortened by about a week. Smith said this in an interview in the December edition of Nigerian Ports Today, a monthly publication of the Nigerian Ports Authority. He added that the deep seaport will boost the economy of the country. It would be a good time to move to global economy, beginning with economic calendar to see the expected data to be released for today, Thursday, March 30th, 2023, and also X-ray the very details regarding economic indices around the world. The economic calendar, looking at the morning and afternoon expected data. This morning, beginning from 12:50 a.m., the foreign bond investment in Japan went up by 1.18 trillion yen, while revised from 3.337 trillion yen, indicating how Japanese outside the country are investing in bonds. As at 12:50 a.m., the stock investment by Japanese foreigners went down to 1.285 trillion yen. The Great Britain car production year-on-year by February, 13.1% came out, improving from a negative 0.3% previously. Let's move to the afternoon to see the key indexes that will come out in the afternoon. Around 1 p.m. today, it is expected that industrial production month-on-month for the month of January in Brazil should be out. Previously it stood at 0%. Consensus figures are standing at 0.3% on the negative and 0.3% as a focus. We'll get to find out what the outcome would be around 1 p.m. Let's move to Germany, the key index that will be expected to be out. Inflation rate year-on-year preliminary estimate in Germany for March. Previously, inflation stood at 8.7% according to preliminary estimates, but the consensus perspective says it should get to 7.3%, dropping slightly, showing an improvement, and the forecast is at 7.5%. Investors, analysts, and economists will be waiting for the outcome by 1 p.m. Also, there ought to be inflation that was out for Spain, and that's what we're talking about. Spain inflation slows to 20-month low. The annual inflation rate in Spain fell to 3.3% in March, the lowest since August 2021, compared to 6% in February. Figures came below expectations of 3.8%, led by a fall in electricity prices and a preliminary estimate showed. Still, core inflation only dropped to 7.5% from a record high of 7.7%. It would be a good time to look at the charts indicating Spain's inflation rates. Inflation in Spain, according to the charts. The chart gives pictures and outlines to what happened from last year to this year. As at April 2022, inflation in Spain stood at 8.3%, went further upward consistently for 4 consecutive months to 10.8% in July. It began to slow down, dropping further to 7.3% in October 2022, and kept dropping to January 2023 at 5.9%, but slowed down to 3.3% currently. In Africa, Kenya unexpectedly hikes interest rates to 9.5%. The Central Bank of Kenya raised its benchmark interest rate by 75 basis points to 9.5% at its March meeting, surprising markets that expected a smaller 25 basis point increase and bringing borrowing costs to the highest since mid-2018. Policymakers noted the sustained inflationary pressure and the potential impact on the domestic economy and concluded that there was need for a further tightening of the monetary policy in order to anchor inflation expectations. The annual inflation rate in Kenya accelerated to 9.2% in February from 9% in January, above market forecast of 8.8% and the central bank's preferred range of 2.5% to 7.5%. The committee will meet again in May 2023, but remains ready to reconvene earlier if necessary. That's the outlook from the economic point of view and an African point of view. It would be a good time to move to the commodity markets to see the prices of commodities and how they're faring this morning. Beginning with Congo. Congo aims to double copper production. Democratic Republic of Congo's Finance Minister Nicolas Kazadi discloses the 2030 objective of 5 million tons, along with plans for cobalt, coltan, gold and lithium production, and the need for Congo to extract greater benefit from the minerals that have historically been exported. Meanwhile, President Felix Tshisekedi has shown his willingness to challenge some of the existing Chinese mining investment in the country. Let's hear from DR Congo's Finance Minister Nicolas Kazadi.
The objective is not only to increase production. The objective for us is to get more added value on locally. That's the main objective. But as you know, we are still increasing production. By 2030, I think on copper we will reach close to 5 million tons of copper. On cobalt, I cannot say so far, but we still have a room. We are still increasing production, but unfortunately, it is still a raw material that we are producing and exporting. Our objective is to transform it locally. Production is growing, GDP is growing. We have been the fast-growing economy in Africa last year, but we don't see a decline in poverty. Poverty is still very high. Even if the average poverty is declining, the number of poor is still increasing. The only way to change that is to have that transformation, local transformation.
The minister says, despite all that is done within the country in terms of the production of these metals, poverty is still high. But let's move to see what the outline within the metal market is this morning. The price of gold, silver, copper, steel, and the rest of the metals, the metal market. The outline within the metal market has shown some positivity this morning. Gold price is at $1,967 per ounce, upward by 3.3 points. Silver is upward slightly this morning, $23 per ounce. Copper slightly upward too, still upward by 6 points. Current price 4,151 Chinese yuan per ton for steel. That's the outlook within the metal market. Let's also have a look at the energy market this morning. What the energies are saying. The US crude oil. WTI crude this morning, current price $73 per barrel, slightly upward this morning. Nigeria's price benchmark, Brent crude oil, $78 per barrel. It's moving further upward comparatively from last 2 days where it was at $75 per barrel. Slightly upward. Natural gas is slightly downward this morning. Gasoline slightly downward this morning. Heating oil a little here, there, and coal similar situation. Market isn't quite strong. The agricultural market. For the agricultural market, it's a little here, little there. Soybeans slightly downward this morning. Current price $1,476 per bushel. For wheat, it's $706 per bushel, upward by 1.52 points. Lumber is downward. Palm oil is gaining back after that fall. 90 points gain for palm oil. Current price 3,797 Malaysian ringgit per ton. Cheese slightly downward this morning. Would be a good time to look at the foreign exchange, what the markets are saying, the market pace. Market conniptions are usually accompanied by an ondraft in the US dollar, since the dollar is viewed as a safe haven while markets sort out the issues. That has not been the case during the recent banking sector volatility. Why has the dollar been sidelined during the banking disruption? Is this a sign of a permanent downgrade for the number one fiat currency? We'll get to find out from Dan Deming in this insight.
The recent disruption in the banking sector has rippled through various asset classes over the past couple of weeks. One asset class of particular interest has been the currency markets. Typically, when markets experience disruptions, for example the equity markets, the US dollar is viewed as a safe haven or a viable store of value as markets sort out the issues. This has not been the case during the recent volatility. There appear to be two factors as to why it has not transpired for the moment. One, the Treasury market's outsized rally is putting downward pressure on the dollar as market participants price in the possibility of lower interest rates in the U.S. relative to the rest of the world. And two, the uncertain nature surrounding U.S. banks and the perception that there could be further fallout has benefited dollar alternatives such as gold and Bitcoin. Proportionately, the U.S. has many more banks than any other country in the world. I believe it is still too early to question the U.S. dollar's fiat standing. However, at the moment, there are a few headwinds impacting the greenback which have reduced its relative strength. The recent disruption in the banking sector has rippled through various...
That's the outlook. Thanks Dan Deming for the outlook, and it's making a lot of sense. The recent route for the Australian dollar has been rocky, with the currency losing over 8% of its value against the US dollar during the month of February. The struggle for the US dollar has been around, especially this week. With the Reserve Bank of Australia set to meet next Tuesday, where does it leave the Aussie US dollar pair? Let's have insights by Jim Laurier.
On March 28th, we saw the latest read of Australia's CPI, and it came in lower than expected at 6.8% year over year versus estimates of 7.2%. The decline was led mostly by housing, transport, and recreation, and it caused a quick 0.6% down move in the Australian dollar versus the US dollar. The implication is that the Reserve Bank of Australia may be more likely to pause at the next week's policy meeting. The recent road for the Australian dollar has been rocky as of late, with the currency losing over 8% of its value against the dollar in the month of February. A good part of that loss was tied to the uneven reopening of Australia's most important trade partner, China. Meanwhile, the month of March has been a different story, as the Australian dollar attempted a rally beginning on March 8th, perhaps linked to the potential for a banking crisis in the U.S. that may lead the Fed to more accommodation than anticipated, and to the recent rise in gold, a commodity that correlates strongly with the Australian dollar. Traders will now be closely watching for clues to the RBA's actions at their April 3rd policy meeting. The CME Group offers 3 different size currency accounts.
Let's move to the market to see the perspective of the market, the euro against the US dollar, as well as other pairs in the market this morning. The morning market has shown some positivity. The euro against the US dollar has gone to the 1.08 mark. 1.08 US dollar equaling 1 euro. Slightly upward in the morning market, pounds against the US dollar at 1.23 mark, slightly upward too. The Aussie against the US dollar. Most of the pairs are gaining slightly against the US dollar. Let's see the Naira against the US dollar then. The Naira against the pound and the Naira against the euro. 459.82 at the international market. That's a standing. It's not really moved. In recent times, it's still struggling. No volatility in this market. The euro against the Naira, 499.2. The euro still gaining slightly at the close of yesterday's market, 0.62 points against the Naira. But the pound struggled yesterday at the close of yesterday's market. Current price 566 Naira equaling £1 at the international and exchange window, downward by 0.63 points against the Naira. Let's go to the parallel market to see the performance of Naira in the parallel market. It's still within the range as of yesterday. Buying rates dollar to Naira 744 Naira equaling $1 and 740 Naira equaling $1 at the selling rates. 920 Naira equaling £1 buying rate, 4 Naira equaling £1 selling rate. Euro to Naira 798 Naira equaling €1 for buying rate and 784 Naira equaling €1 for selling rate on the average. The cryptocurrency market will give good conclusion to the forex market, knowing that the crypto market is the digital currency. So we're moving from the fiat to the digital currency. Bitcoin, after hitting the $29,000 mark, $29,000 mark, Bitcoin is moving up this morning after that yesterday's slowdown. 28,540 market is moving fast. 28,545 US dollar equaling 1 Bitcoin, a 0.54% increase. But the rest of the crypto market seem to be struggling. Only Bitcoin, the father of crypto, standing well this morning. Let's look at the picture from the stock market then, the Nigerian stock market, as we draw the curtain to this session. The Nigerian bourse ended trading with 250 billion Naira gain on Wednesday after the market capitalization recovered from previous days lost by appreciating 0.9%. The stock market capitalization of the Nigerian Exchange Limited increased from Tuesday's 28.95 trillion Naira to 29.2 trillion Naira. Also, the all-share index rebounded from 53,124.63 points to 53,603.8 points, gaining 479.17 basis points. Let's look at the top gainers then. Oando led the gainers list with a 44 kobo rise in share price to move from 4 Naira 47 kobo to 4 Naira 91 kobo per share, the bottom loser. May and Becker topped the losers table after shedding 40 kobo to drop from 4 Naira 60 kobo to 4 Naira 20 kobo per share, the top volume. Transcorp led the day's trading with 91.39 million shares, valued at 134.23 million Naira. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. My name is Blyden Kim. Thank you for watching.